Before we go any further, just want to thank all the people over on Patreon, because without their help, none of this upgraded content that you'd be seeing would be possible. Over on the Patreon, you get exclusive sneak peeks at upcoming videos. You also get access to the Patreon only Discord server. Coming up soon, I'm going to be working on talking about other anime that I can't talk about here on YouTube, like say ReZero, Konosuba, and etc. I'm also going to start posting the scripts for video essays, and every 3 months we do an anime and manga haul. We also are going to open up the Patreon only Discord server to YouTube members at the $2 price tier, which also means that members will be seeing their name here alongside the patron. But with that being said, let's get back into today's video. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another review for Boruto Naruto Next Generations, episode 266. And now that episode 266 is done in the books, we actually got a lot to talk about here. So first and foremost, I gotta say, seeing Himawari jump over into action, that was really nice to see. You're actually seeing some of that training that happened when Himawari was younger, when Hanabi was actually training Himawari, which is something that we find out in the Naruto Parent and Child A novel, which wasn't fully adapted into the anime, only partially, but we see some of that training that Hanabi gave to Himawari and Boruto when they were younger. So that was nice to see Himawari in action. We see that she's once again been able to use the Byakugan, only for a short period of time, but she was able to use the eye itself. Very nice to see the improvements that Himawari made. Also really nice to see that beautifully cut sequence where Kawaki is in that ring of fire release, and Kawaki ends up breaking through the fire release and ends up one-shotting the guy that he's fighting against. That was nice to see that whole sequence right there. That was very beautifully animated. I do not know who actually animated that cut, but I do recognize that animation style. I just cannot think of the animator off top, but we have seen this animator on Boruto, because that is a signature right there. The way that you got all those extra pops and flares for the jutsu and some of the other animation signatures are unique to that person in particular. Every animator has their own unique style, and if you know what you're looking for, you can pick out which cuts are actually animated by which people. So I like that little small nugget right there. That was really nice to see that sequence there. I will say, when it comes to the art in particular of this episode, not the animation, just the art, I like the small details you saw when it came to some of the shading and some of the composition that you see in the episode itself. That was nice artistically right there. Now, from an animation perspective, the way that some of this stuff was storyboarded with some of the wide shots and the way that some of the transitions were actually done here, those are actually some nice shots right there. There's not a terrible amount to actually nitpick and say, oh, there wasn't good slow in and out, there wasn't bounce, there wasn't pose to pose action, there wasn't good exaggeration. You can't really watch this episode and say that the 12 principles of animation weren't followed here, because this is actually well done. Now that we got my initial thoughts out of the way, let's go ahead and back things up and get into the review portion of the video. So I like how the episode starts off with Himawari, and she's talking to Kawaki, and she's saying, hey, looks like you're on cleanup duty. That kind of sucks, but I'm gonna go out with Kae. Don't worry about her. We're just gonna go shopping. Kawaki has a little bit of peace of mind just knowing, like, okay, Himawari is going to be with Kae, but also she's going to have the Jonin that are going to be watching her from a distance. I don't have to worry about anything bad happen to her. And that's when Himawari has a change of heart and decides to check on Osuka. And we find out that Osuka is in the sights of two kidnappers who are failed academy students who have resorted to a life of crime, and their leader is a former genin who was a rogue ninja. And what we end up seeing is that Himawari and Osuka, they end up getting kidnapped. They get taken out into the woods, into some type of warehouse storage area, and we see a few interesting things right here. So the first thing we see is that Himawari is showing a lot of knacks for being a shinobi. I really think that this is kind of setting up the stage for us to see that Himawari is going to make her decision when the academy graduation happens to actually become a shinobi, because as a reminder, not every person who attends the academy does so to become a ninja. They're given the option. I think they are setting up the stage for Himawari to make that decision to become a shinobi later on down the line, but I do like seeing that. And I also like how one of the things that Kawaki notices when Himawari is missing is he sees that Himawari's sunflower necklace is on the ground. And so You have Kawaki, you have Batora, the butler for Kae, and you have Kae. They're checking into the residences around the academy. They're looking for Neon, they're looking for Osuka, hoping to actually find Himawari there. And that's when the episode shifts back over to the warehouse, and now it's actually gotten dark at this point, and you see that the rogue ninja who used to be a Ganin, he begins to start physically assaulting the people working underneath them, and it's because they're talking way too much, giving up way too much info to Himawari about who they are and about who their leader is. And when you see how composed that Himawari is, that former Ganin takes a very close look at her, and that's when he puts two and two together and he says, "You're the Hokage's daughter. I've seen you." And when I saw the episode synopsis, at first I said, why would somebody knowingly try and hold Himawari ransom when they know who her father is? And there was a line that was dropped in the episode that explains it perfectly, and we actually see some of this tie back to what we saw in Naruto's manga, as well as some of the stuff that we saw in the light novels and stuff that has been touched on in the Boruto manga and the physical manga volumes, where you have the notes written by Ukyo Kodachi, as well as in the light novels that are set in the Boruto era. So the reason why they decided to keep Himawari and not release her is while they were trying to use Osuka as ransom because her mother's a famous actress, they were planning to actually sell Himawari off. And the whole reason why they wanted to sell Himawari off is that Naruto's Hokage has enemies. And I know somebody's like, wait, the 5 great nations are all in alliance, so why would Naruto have enemies? Naruto has literally saved the world 3 times. He saved the world from Kaguya, he saved the world from Toneri, and he saved the world from Momoshiki, and I guess you could say he even saved the world from Ishiki as well. So that's actually 4 times. However, the thing you have to keep in mind is that Himawari is the granddaughter of Minato. Minato has a lot of enemies that are still around in this Boruto era. That's the whole reason why Naruto's last name was kept secret, because if any word got out that Minato had a son and that Naruto was the son, Minato's enemies would have targeted him. Now, Naruto has enemies even as 7th Hokage, because there are people in the smaller villages that have a lot of beef with Naruto. And part of it comes from the fact that he's just the Hokage of Konoha. Konoha has peace with the 5 great nations. When you get into these smaller countries, it's a country by country basis, but Konoha still has enemies. That's something that Ukyo Kodachi in the physical copies of the Boruto manga does kind of lay out, that there are people inside the Land of Fire who do not support Naruto's Hokage and are working to undermine him, which I've done a whole video on that. There are people in the light novels, there are lines that allude to the fact that there are people in other countries that have issues with Naruto as the Hokage. So it's one of those things like how they use small lines in the various novels to pay off things that were in the Funato clan arc. You're seeing something similar here. We're seeing small nuggets of information that we got from various source materials to actually be paid off in the anime, with Himawari being potentially sold to the people that have a beef with Naruto. So I like that you see that right there. And so essentially the episode then shifts over to Kawaki and Batora kind of narrowing down the list of places where Himawari could be, because they now realize that Himawari and Osuka have been kidnapped. And so when we go back over to the warehouse, you see Himawari, and she's using the talk no jutsu a little bit. She's like, hey, like, my dad's a really nice guy. You guys are worried about being used for capital punishment because of kidnapping me and everything. My dad isn't like that. He ain't like the other Hokage. You're not gonna lose an arm, a leg, or a face, or whatever in the hell they used to back in the day. My dad is a really nice guy. If you apologize, and you apologize very quickly, he might even forgive you. And it's like, that's like the most Naruto thing ever. He's like, yeah, you know, you kidnapped my daughter, but you said sorry, so I'll still send you to jail, but I might knock a couple of days off of your sentence. I will say this, after this happens, that former Ganin that's now a rogue ninja, he uses fire release, he shoots it off at the people that are telling Himawari too much information, and that's when the episode then shifts over to Kae and Kawaki, and they're talking to Neon, and you find out a little bit more about Neon and Osuka's relationship. And by this point right here, Himawari's come up with the plan, because those 2 idiots that flunked out the academy have fallen asleep. And Himawari's like, hey, you can free yourself, right, Osuka? I got a plan. We can get out of here. And so you essentially see Osuka and Himawari both use the escape jutsu, which is essentially the jutsu to get out of any type of bindings like ropes and etc. Well, Himawari, as soon as she gets free, she just immediately speed blitzes the leader of this faction, who is a rogue ninja. And while it is off guard, she does manage to tag him, and the guy looks up just before Himawari hits him with a roundhouse kick. And I like seeing that. And then you see the two of these people, they start swapping hands, and you see Himawari is gradually getting the better of him as the fight's going on. And a large part of that is due to her Byakugan, but you see that she's used the gentle fist fighting style. She's landing those critical hits, but we haven't actually seen her take that next step and actually target the chakra points themselves, which is why I said at the beginning of the review, this is why Himawari needs to go back and finish her training with Hanabi. That's exactly why in Boruto episode 8 and episode 9, Hiashi directly told Naruto, hey, the moment your daughter is starting to use the Byakugan consciously, you need to bring her back here to the compound, because that's as far as Himawari's training got, and it's because she didn't have a Byakugan. It's the same thing with Boruto, because Boruto didn't have a Byakugan, the training stopped there. But in the light novels, Hanabi shows enough interest that she wants to continue training both of them, even though neither one of them can consciously use a Byakugan. So now that that's no longer the case, I think we're seeing signs here that that moment is going to be coming. Now, one thing that we do see is that when Himawari does knock out briefly the person she's fighting, the guy grabs her by the leg and he starts choking Himawari. And while I am a proponent of Himawari wants to be a ninja so she can catch these hands rated E for everybody, equal rights get equal lefts, the moment this man started choking Himawari, I was ready to join the Himawari protection squad and just pull up to this man's funeral after Naruto kills him for what he did to Himawari and just do the most disrespectful things ever to him.
Word of my mother, I won't smack this nigga right here. Say I won't smack this nigga. Ooh, nigga.
This man got a lot of nerve making Himawari stop smiling, but you know how you can make Himawari smile by hitting that like button, because each like makes Himawari smile. And after being kidnapped, Himawari definitely needs to smile. At this point, that's when Kawaki shows up. Kawaki has his fight sequence with the leader of this group, and that's when you see that beautiful shot where he's breaking through the fire. You see Kawaki quickly take out the person that he's fighting, and then you have the wrap up of the episode itself. And I'll say this as well, that moment where Kawaki comes straight down from the ceiling and he lands the hit on the leader of that group, the way that you see the bounce element with the clothes flapping and the shockwaves, and then it follows up with their fight sequence where he's breaking through the fire and landing those hits. Very beautifully animated right there. I gotta give props on that one. That was good animation.
Oh boy! Yeah!
Now, at the end of the episode, we get the revelation that there's actually the real kidnapper who was watching the whole thing, because this is the person that was originally targeting Kai that we've not seen yet. So we finally see the true villain of this final arc, but it looks like it's not Bator. So those of you guys who said, hey, it might actually be the academy classroom teacher, you might be right, but I will say I still don't think so, because that looks like the appearance of a man, and Bator used to be a talented shinobi. It's nothing for him to make a shadow clone, but we will see here. I'm not giving up on Batora. I do think that that is a shadow clone right there, but again, we'll have to see. However, my episode question to you guys is, now that Himawari's shown some of her combat ability, who do you think is best suited to train her to maximize her Byakugan? Should it be Hinata, or does it need to be Hanabi, simply because of the fact that Hinata, as Himawari's mother, isn't going to push her as hard in the training? Which one do you think is better suited to oversee Himawari's Byakugan training? Let me know down in the comment section below. But while you think that over, click here to watch my Black Clover chapter review, and click here to watch my video on how Naruto briefly used the Byakugan in the Boruto era, which, newsflash, that actually happened.